So I just wanted to show everybody what it looks like when I got my running lights on inside. It's kind of cool. But this isn't going to be one of those dark videos because the sun's coming up. It's early in the morning here in Florida. It's nice, chilly, and cold. And today we're going to be talking about other good reasons to have a van, to live in a van. And you don't have to live in it forever, like your whole life or whatever. But if you decide you kind of like this off the grid thing, but people are like, oh, you're crazy, you have to pay rent or mortgage or whatever. There's actually another good reason. And it's one I don't hear any of the van dwellers talking about, so I'm bringing it up now. And it's basically what is called a survival instinct. And let me tell you what I mean about that. A lot of people these days are talking about something's going to happen. Somebody's going to freak out. There's going to be civil unrest. And people are like, well, I'm going to have lots of water in my house, and I'm going to have, dried food, and I'll hunker in my house with my gun, and when it goes south, if something goes south, I'll hang out and I'll be in my house, and I'll tell you what, if something goes south, and I really believe this, even if it isn't your community, say some other community, they're going to have people coming out of there, and they're going to be looking for what you got. And they're going to be on the road, and they're going to be moving. And if you think one or two or four people can barricade themselves in their house with a bunch of dried food that'll last them a year, you're not really realizing the full picture. These kind of guys, kind of people, not necessarily guys, but people. I mean, if the law isn't there to stop them, like in all those protests we were seeing, they'll smash windows and burn limousines and do whatever they feel like doing because they think, something's been done wrong to me, so it's okay for me to do something wrong to somebody else. Now, hopefully and probably this won't happen, but the end result is, if you're in a fixed position, it's almost impossible for a handful of people to hold it down. But if you can get on the road and you can move, the further away you can get from large populations, the safer you'll be. And I'll tell you what, you go up into the mountains where it's cold and windy and rainy, it's a known fact and a statistic that crime goes down when the weather gets bad, because even criminals don't like to be in the rain and the cold. So if you can learn to live out on the road, you have a way better chance of surviving even the worst kind of civil unrest. And you gotta look up other channels, YouTube channels, survival channels that really talk about this. Things that I have learned because, well, I saw Jeff the Canuck in his van, and I thought, wow, that's a cool thing for me because I don't have a wife, and I do have kids. I mean, an ex-wife. I have one of those. And I have kids, but they're all grown up and doing their own thing. And so it's not like, I can do this. I can jump into a van, and if I make myself miserable, I've only got myself to blame for it, and I don't have somebody else saying, why'd you drag me into this? So basically what I'm saying is get your family involved and say, listen, um, we're just going to do this for a weekend, or we're just going to, or your girlfriend or your wife or your husband or your kids. Um, it could be one, two, or how many ever. I've heard of people, whole families living out of a car. Now, of course, that's not nice or comfortable, but, and that's why I got the big van. But um, it's better than being in a stationary place trying to board your house up and getting run through anyhow. If you're out on the road and you can get up into the mountains or out into the forest, and you've got a much better chance of surviving civil unrest. It's when people are together in the thousands and the tens of thousands, it's like rats in the cage. They turn on each other, and that's just the way it is. And I don't believe that's going to happen. But the people that know how to get out into a van or a camper or just a bug out situation, and they have, the stuff they need, an axe, box of matches, extra water, trash bags, to be more minimalistic. You can't bring all your knickknacks with you. You can't bring, your grandfather's favorite guitar, or unless you can play it, that might be an excellent thing to bring. But I mean, you go into people's houses and they got these huge paintings on the wall. That's not going to fit in a camper. It's not going to fit in a van. You're going to need all the room you can get to live. So go to these other channels, these YouTube channels, and see these people that are doing, survival and how to deal with moving around and getting out into I don't necessarily mean the woods, but away from huge cities and huge communities, because if something goes down, if it gets bad, that's the worst possible place you can be. I mean, people turn on each other, and you would be surprised. It could even be people very well, and suddenly it's like, oh, so-and-so has this and that, and they have two, and we don't even have one. So let's go there and get it. So you got to be ready. You got to think about the future. I'm not talking about a, zombie apocalypse, but shy of that, anything's possible. Now, I don't want this to be a depressing, get a van and learn how to live off the grid thing. What I want it to be is get a van and say, hey, listen, we're ready for anything. And you don't have to live in it. You can just take it out for a weekend or a week, and that's actually the best way to do it. And if you find out, hey, this is ridiculous, vans are easy and cheap to get, and they're just as easy and just as, they hold their value. So whatever you buy it for, unless you destroy it or wreck it, you can sell it for. I mean, these type of American vans are made specifically as a cargo van to begin with, and then the dealership sends them off, and that's when they turn them into these conversion vans. I always recommend getting one that looks like a conversion van, in the sense that it doesn't have solar power, and it doesn't look like you're camping in it. It looks like, you're traveling. And there's other things you might want to think about: a concealed carry license, depending on the state you're in. And even if you can't get a concealed carry license, And even if you're like in London or, I'm sorry, the UK, not London, you don't have to have a pistol. You can get a shotgun and say, hey, it's a hunting thing, and, you know, it's 3 steps. It's not loaded, you know, it's in a case, but you've got something for road protection. Now, I don't have any of that, but it's because I don't have a concealed carry license. But I'm thinking about getting one. Anyhow, the good news is I got a great job. I started working a week ago. I'm going to build up a bunch of money. I'm going to get new tires. And yeah, everything's up and up now. I'm ready for the next... Well, it's going to take a while to build up enough money, but then for the next adventure. And thanks a lot for everybody sticking with me. And I welcome all the new subscribers. There's only a handful of them, but you know, it makes you feel good when somebody watches and gives you a thumbs up. So hope everybody's well. See ya!